Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna wait 1 second to get started, and as other classrooms start coming in. But thanks for joining. All right, I think that we might have everyone in here. All right, perfect. Okay, let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome MMSD students and teachers. We're super excited to have you with us today. My name is Max Ufkis, and I'm an intern with Reap Food Group. REAP is an organization here in Madison that helps connect farmers with people like you, whether at local eateries, schools, or right in your own classrooms. Today, we've teamed up with an amazing organization called Rooted to bring you today's virtual farm tour. Rooted is all about getting hands-on with nature and learning how to grow food right in your city. They teach people how to garden, take care of our planet, and make yummy, healthy food. Today, Farmer Brian is going to be our guide. He'll show us some of the buzzing bees, explain what makes the community garden so special, why we plant cover crops, and even introduce us to have some helpful garden insects. It's going to be an awesome adventure. Now, before we start exploring, let's go over a couple of quick tips before the tour begins. Teachers, just a quick reminder, keep your cameras and microphones off, please. Today, we'll be also utilizing.
Hey Max. Max, sorry, can you unmute yourself? We had some students who were talking over you there.
No worries. All right, are we back?
Thank you.
All
Yep.
right.
We're good.
Just going over those polling options. A poll will get sent on your screen. Have your students respond, get the majority answer, and then we'll review them together. Now we're gonna transition to Brian. Without further ado, Farmer Brian is here at Madison School Farm. Brian, thank you so much for hosting the tour today. Could you start telling us a bit about the farm?
Yeah. First of all, welcome everybody. I appreciate that you have the time to do this today. You're here with me at the Madison School Farm, and we're on the east side of Madison. We're an urban farm, so a little different than another farm you think about out in the country with animals and big acres of land. But around here, we farm on a small plot, but we're an educational farm. So what we specialize in, my organization is called Rooted, and we teach kids especially about how to garden and how to cook, how to do things like that. But yeah, we're very invested in the fact that we want to teach kids how to learn how to grow, both in the soil and in the classroom. So yeah, Max, I appreciate the opportunity and thank you all. I'm looking forward to showing you around our farm and some of the things we do.
Well, awesome, Brian. Well, we can't wait to explore the Madison School Farm with you. Speaking of exploration, I heard there's some buzzing bees around here. As Brian takes a walk over the bees, I have some question for you students. What do you think is the main job of bees on the farm? And teachers, feel free to answer collect answers from students, and we'll provide those answers on the screen next. All right, Aiden, do we have those answers?
We're waiting on two more. All right, got it.
Perfect. That's exactly right. What is the main jobs of bees on the farm? Making honey. Now, as we're over at the beehives, Farmer Brian, can you tell us why bees are so important and how we ensure their safety and our safety on the farm?
Sure. Yeah. We have had bees on this farm for like 12 years or so. Bees are very important. It's one of those creatures that you have to respect. A lot of kids, especially, are scared of bees. A lot of adults are scared of bees, but really, If we're not acting crazy around them, if we're being calm around them, they do their job. And really what they want to do is visit flowers, get food for the rest of their colony or their hive for their babies. So we need to respect the bees. And behind me are a couple of our hives, two of them here. In the middle of summer, each one of those hives will be probably have somewhere between 20 and 50,000 bees apiece. Right now, they're not active. We had some incidents, some die off on these hives. So the importance of having bees in a farm or a garden is for two different things. As you all identified, all the kids identified, yes, of course, honey is one of the greatest things that bees give us. But one of the most important things they give us is the ability to pollinate our crops. So if we turn around, we can see we have trees that have, these are apple trees with the white blossoms up there. And I'm not sure if you can see those on videos, but we have fruit trees like apples, cherries, and pears around here. Now the bees, they visit the flowers and they pollinate each of those. And pollination happens by taking pollen from one flower to the next. And what that allows the plant to do is create seeds, which creates a fruit, which allows us to have fruit, both to sell and give away and eat. Also help with vegetables as well. So crops like squash and pumpkins and cucumbers all need bees in order to pollinate. So bees are very important on a farm. Most importantly, because they pollinate our crops, but secondly, for the honey. Honey is one of my favorite foods. And I guess one thing to mention about the honey is the reason that bees make honey is so they can survive. It's food for themselves and food for their babies and food so that they can overwinter because there's no pollen, there's no nectar out during the winter. So they have to store that up so they have food all winter. When we harvest honey, we harvest in August and we don't take all their honey. If we took all their honey, they would starve during the winter. So we take maybe a third to half of their honey each year. We share with them. That's the idea behind this is that we share. We have a relationship with the bees. They help us do many things on the farm. One of those is to give us honey. We share that honey with them, but they also do a very important work of pollination.
That's really important to note, Ryan. We have to respect and remember that we share with the bees. Now, moving on to the community gardens, what are the community gardens and what things can be planted in the community gardens?
Sure. And here's the definition of a community garden. Community garden is a space that people in the community can come to if they, let's say they live in an apartment and they don't have a place that they can plant at their home where they reside, or maybe their house has too much shade and they don't have enough sunshine to plant crops for food. They can come here and rent a space from us. So each one of these squares you see over here is a different community member that has rented this space from us. They pay a certain amount each year. They're able to use this place, plant what they want. A lot of them plant food for their family. Some people plant flowers just so they can have something beautiful in their house. So each person plants a little different, and we're just getting started on the season. And in our community garden, we have maybe 12 plots or so, different community members of all different backgrounds. If we look over the top of this one that has nothing planted, we have a Ukrainian farmer that he's been here 8-9 years already. He has his own style of gardening. So it's a really nice space to get to know others, but also see different styles and to learn from others as far as how to grow things in different ways.
Wow, it's really amazing to see how our community gardens can transform city spaces and bring people together. Now let's shift our focus from gardens that feed our community to plants that feed our soil. Let's talk about some cover crops. Farmer Brian, can you show us and explain what cover crops are and how they're used in urban farming?
Sure. Yeah. So here we're in the middle of a city. We have to think about our soil health. Soil health is the most important to growing healthy plants. So if I was out in the country, let's say on a big farm, I would be able to take maybe my cow's manure or cow poop and put it all over the fields. Now, if I put a bunch of cow poop on this field, my neighbors behind me would probably get angry at me. So that's the difference between an urban farm and a rural farm. So here we utilize a different method to put nutrients in the soil. We do that by planting something called a cover crop. Now, a cover crop are plants that we grow specifically to grow up. We let them grow, we let them die, and we let decomposers come and eat those to provide nutrients for a healthy soil. Because in every tablespoon of soil, there are millions of different organisms. Now, those organisms get hungry too. So in order for us to feed those organisms, we have to plant or add something to the soil for them to eat. So over here behind me, this was a cover crop that we planted last year. There are some weeds growing in it, but as you can see, these were the old plants. So these plants have sat all winter, they're drying and breaking down. And as they break down, worms come up and eat, but they also break down into the soil and bacteria and other things eat them and release nutrients to the soil. In a couple weeks, we'll be able to come in this field and plant other crops. Those crops will have nutrients for this year. So besides being good, a lot of these plants, cover crops, have flowers on it, which help the bees. They also help the soil as well. So it's kind of a dual purpose. We provide, as they grow and flower, it's food for the bees, and then it's food for the soil.
Wow, that's super interesting, Brian. Um, Now let's turn our attention to some of the smaller yet incredibly impactful residents of the Madison School Farms, the insects and the pollinators. Students, besides bees, which of the following is also a pollinator? A poll will pop up on your screen right now. Feel free to answer that, and we'll give you those answers.
Great, let's do 5 more seconds and then we will make those poll results public.
Perfect. That's great work, students. Butterflies is the correct answer. They also are another pollinator, besides bees. Now we'll head over to Farmer Brian, and he can tell us a little bit more about these other beneficial insects and other pollinators on the farm.
Yeah, Max. We depend on a lot of different insects on the farm. A lot of people might think that insects are a bad thing to have. Maybe you get too many in your house, you have too many ants or too many box elder bugs, something like that. But here on the farm, we like diversity. We like having a wide mix of bugs because if we have too many of one bugs, they're out of balance with the others. So one way we keep that balance, especially on our farm, is planting areas like you have behind me. So this is actually a pollinator garden. Though it's early in the season, this whole area behind me, right in the middle of our farm, is full of different flowers that attract both pollinators and beneficial insects. So pollinators, we've kind of talked about. They move from flower to flower, moving pollen around to help. Some of them can be weeds like dandelions. Some of them can be weeds kind of like the ground ivy there. They all attract pollinators. Pollinators come visit those flowers and they give them food to survive. But in addition, we have a lot of other plants here that have flowers to attract different insects. Some of these insects are important because they actually will be drawn to the flower, but they will also attack other insects that are harmful to our other crops. So it's a very unique situation. In some farmers' lives or some farms, they will use chemicals to control different insects that harm their crops. We use other insects to control the bad insects. That's how we do it on our farm.
Wow, very, very, very cool, Brian. That's some very insightful information about everything that's happening at the farm. Now, students, let's open it up to you. Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, teachers, please feel free to submit them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those. It could be about pollinators. It could be about different insects. It could be about plants that are grown and possibly cooked on the farm. How you can sign up to take a tour at the farm. Anything is fair game here. Brian, while we wait for some of those questions, can you tell us about what tours look like on the farm in person?
Yes, every spring and fall we invite kids to come in, and basically we have hour and a half time slots where you're able to come. We'll usually split into three groups, and one of the groups will cook, one of the groups will tour the farm, and the other group will do some kind of farm chore, whether that be getting the beds ready to plant, planting itself, or harvesting. Now, each of those three groups rotates through, so kids get a good look at what a farm may look like, some of the things involved in the work, and it's just a good time to be outside. It's a beautiful space. It's close in Madison. So we encourage people, if you are interested, please go to rootedwi.org and you can sign up for these trips.
Awesome, Brian. Here's one question from Heather Fink's classroom. What are the types of food that you grow on the farm?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
What are the types of food that are grown on the farm?
Oh, we grow like 20 different crops. Let's see. So far, we have kale and collards in, but pretty soon it's peas, radishes. The strawberries are just starting to flower. So we have some fruit trees, cherry, apple, pear, raspberries, mulberries, currants. We could walk over and see some of these. But yeah, there's a lot of different crops: tomatoes, peppers, onions, garlic. Oh, what else do we have? Leeks, squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, about anything you can think of. Any kind we grow because we want to have the kids have the experience of seeing what that plant looks like and seeing how it grows. And as
Right.
you can see right behind me over here, these are raspberry plants. They're very nice and healthy right now. We'll have raspberries on those in approximately maybe a month or so. So sometime in June.
Great, great. And then here's a question from Sarah Lemaster's classroom. How many types of butterflies do you see there?
Hmm. I'm gonna guess like between the butterflies and moths that I see during the year. I mean, most common probably like 7 or 8. We do have a lot of monarchs. There are black swallowtail, yellow swallowtail, painted ladies, and yeah, a few others that I don't recognize. We do have a lot of dragonflies for some reason that come through here as well, which is kind of interesting. And again, that all has to do with all the different types of plants we have that bring these things out of the environment here.
Awesome, awesome. And this is a question from Tina's classroom. Are there any animals on the farm?
Yes, yes, there are. One of the coolest spots, if we look around over here, we have these tall pine trees. Those are home to owls. We've had a nesting pair of great horned owls up here that actually come down and they'll eat, the some of the things that attack our crops like rabbits, squirrels, mice. We have a lot of hawks that come through. This spring, we actually have a mating pair of foxes that live over by the beehives back in the shrubs there. So we do have a lot of different animals here. Most of them are here because of the food chain, because there are rodents, there are rabbits and squirrels and mice, and that's food sources for them. And that's why we have them here. They're attracted to this area because there's plenty of food.
And then Sarah Symes' classroom also had a question of what are the pollinators you have on the farm? I know we talked a little bit about bees, but are there any other ones?
Yeah, there are bees, but there are a lot of different bees. There are different bees like bumblebees. Obviously, there's honeybees, but there's also different native bees, such as the leaf cutter bee, the mason bee, which usually will find a home in a little hole in a tree, like a woodpecker hole. But there's probably 20 different types of wasps and other small bees that you rarely see that are just very, very small. Besides that, there are moths, a lot of moths around on some of these plants. But yes, hummingbirds as well. I guess you could consider them a type of pollinator sometimes. And there's a butterfly right behind me. So yeah, there are quite a few. And if I was more knowledgeable, I would be able to name them all.
And then one more question from Sarah's classroom is there a cow on the farm?
No, there is no cow on our farm because we are in the city limits. We cannot have cows. At one of our other sites, we have chickens. You are allowed to have chickens in the city of Madison. I think it's up to 6 of them per spot or per area. So we do not have any animals on this farm besides the wild ones.
Great. Last chance, teachers and students, for any more questions um, before we kind of close things up here. Give it a second. Well, one question is, why is having a cow against the rules?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. My guess is because they would require a lot of food and they would produce a lot of cow manure or cow poop. And there would have to be a way to get rid of it.
Right. Makes sense. And when did the farm start?
This farm started as a project with East High School, I believe in 2010, 8 or 10. And it was to get kids, again, to get kids involved in growing things because it is a life skill. To provide food for your family is a very important thing. And a lot of people do not have that experience, and that's why we're here, is to give kids that experience in growing things and learning about how to grow things. So yes, it's been here a while, but we've been teaching kids on this site for over 10 years.
And here's another question from Sarah's classroom. Do any of the animals help the plants grow?
Hmm. Well, I mean, a lot of them that we have here, like I said, they will try to attack the crops. But again, it's all about a balance. This is an ecosystem. So depending on what we need, like, yes, I guess some of them, they do help because they control the other pests that might affect our crop, but not in particular. No animals in particular are helping like dig the soil to help the plants grow.
Gotcha. And then a question from Sharon's classroom. Are there any blueberries grown there?
We do not have blueberries here. Blueberries require you to have a different type of soil. Now, you can create that type of soil by bringing in things to help the soil, but we don't deal with that. We like to work with plants that don't need that type of addition to the soil, things that grow well in the soils we have.
And then another question from Sharon's classroom. Are there any cats there? And do you grow native plants?
Yes, there are some neighborhood cats that come through here, and again, that's part of the ecosystem for our farm. There's not a lot of them, and they do help control the mice. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, what was the second half of the question?
Uh, do you grow any native plants on the farm?
Yes, yes, and as we were over looking at that pollinator area, a lot of those are native plants, and over by the bees as well, there's a little native prairie there. So we do include those in the landscape as well because those those plants help to bring in the insects that we want. So that diversity of insects, like we talked about, the pollinators and the beneficials, are all drawn to those.
Gotcha. And a question from Miss Anna's classroom. Around how much do the plots cost a year?
So it depends. We if you are, it depends on your income. So if you don't make a lot of money in a year, it doesn't cost that much. If you do make a lot of money, we ask for a little more. So usually I would say average cost is around 40 to $60 a year for a spot. like behind us here that's about 20 by 40 feet.
And then another question from Sarah Lemaster's classroom is, do you worry about erosion on the farm?
On our farm, we don't necessarily worry about erosion because of the fact it's fairly flat. Um, but we do, like I said, worry about soil health. So we do have to make amendments of, of cover crops or whatnot to the soil. But no, we do not worry about erosion.
And then we'll take one more question from Sarah Lemaster's classroom of why did you start the farm, or why was the farm started?
Yeah, the farm was started to specifically educate kids. There was an urban agriculture program at Madison East High School, and that teacher or that program wanted to get kids more involved in growing foods for themselves, but also the community. So being involved in growing the food, delivering it to both food banks and community members was a very important part of that program. So that's the basis of this area. We have both community gardens here, like I showed you, but we have these other plots over here that were intended to grow food for community food banks.
Gotcha. Well, I think we're closing up here. I want to be respectful of everyone's classroom's time. Um, and I just want to thank you, Brian, for giving us the
Yeah.
tour today and all your detailed responses and answers and answering all these questions. Do you have any final words that you'd like to tell the students and teachers?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it, Max. Thank you. So again, yeah, I want to encourage all the kids out there. Learning how to grow food is a super great skill to have. It's very important. It can help your family's health. It can help your family's economy. It saves money. But besides that, it's really good to be outside, to be with nature and understand where you live at and understand your ecosystem. So I encourage teachers, if you're wanting to come out and have your kids experience this during the school year. This spring is already full with field trips, but again, look at rootedwi.org. You can sign up for a field trip, and yeah, we'll work with you to see what kind of priorities you have with your learning.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much. Teachers and students, I think that's all from us today. We hope you had you found this tour very informative and inspiring. Keep exploring and learning about the natural world around you. Goodbye for now, and we look forward to welcoming you on our next virtual adventure.